You are the lie you keep telling yourself. You say you're kind, empathetic, a good person. But let's cut the performance. Let's strip everything. Because here's what no one ever told you. You're not kind. You're just terrified of confrontation. You're not selfless. You just don't know how to say no. You're not spiritual. You're emotionally numb and pretending it's peace. The truth? You've spent your entire life rehearsing a character. You learned to be liked, to be needed, to be the one who never causes problems. You built a mask so polished, so useful, so socially acceptable, that even you forgot it was a mask. And now you think it's who you are. But look closer. Behind your patience, there's resentment. Behind your smile, there's manipulation. Behind your, "it's okay," there's rage. Behind your, "I understand," there's deep, seething shame. You hate those who take up space, but secretly envy their freedom. You despise arrogance, but you crave the power it brings. You mock selfishness, but you give only to be seen as good. Let's be honest. You don't want truth. You want validation. You don't want transformation. You want to be admired while staying exactly the same. And that's the problem. Your ego made a deal. I'll keep you safe, if you never look too deep. So you built an identity around everything that hurts the least. Being helpful, being calm, being the one who always lets it go. But you didn't let it go. You buried it. And now that buried part, that angry, powerful, wild part, is rotting beneath your persona. Carl Jung called it the shadow. And it's not evil. It's honest. It's raw. It's you, without the script. And it terrifies you. Because if you face it, you lose the story. The story that says you're good. That says others are to blame. That says all you ever did was love too much. But what if that story is the cage? What if your light is just your shadow, strangled to death? And what if the reason you keep breaking is because part of you knows you're not who you pretend to be? You're the lie you've repeated the longest. Welcome. This is where the mask cracks. You hate in others what you're hiding in yourself. You say you can't stand liars, manipulators, arrogant people, narcissists, controllers. But what if I told you this? You don't hate them because they're wrong. You hate them because they're doing out loud what you've buried in silence. You say you despise people who crave attention, but you post every day hoping someone will notice your pain. You say you can't stand people who are fake, but you haven't spoken a real feeling in months. You say others are manipulative, but look at the way you smile when you want something. Look at how you say, "Don't worry about me," while secretly needing to be rescued. This isn't judgment. This is exposure. You think you're better than them. You think your version is more evolved, more subtle, more spiritual. But it's the same pattern, just painted white. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And you didn't believe him. Because it's easier to be the victim, to be the misunderstood one, to be the one who just wants peace. But your peace is a lie. It's curated, sanitized, empty. Because behind every projection is a shadow begging to be seen. The truth? You're angry. You're bitter. You want to be loved without needing to love back. You want to control, but call it helping. You want power, but you wear it as humility. You want attention, but you cover it in service. You've split yourself. You gave the world the version that's digestible and buried the version that might disrupt, that might offend, that might feel. And now every time someone shows you a part of your exiled self, you hate them. Not because they're wrong, but because they're real. And you're not. They act without filters. You resent that because you're exhausted from filtering every emotion just to keep your fake peace alive. You think you're good, but your goodness is performative. Your patience is fear. Your silence is cowardice. Your tolerance is just avoidance with better branding. Let that sink. Because the moment you stop saying they're the problem and start asking, why does this bother me so much? Everything changes. Not gently, violently. Because suddenly, you're naked. No more mirror games. No more high ground. Just you. And your reflection. The one you've spent a lifetime avoiding. Let me ask you this. Who do you secretly envy? Who triggers you? Who makes you angry for reasons you can't explain? Now go deeper. What part of them is a part of you that you've tried to kill? Because that's where your shadow lives. Not in your darkness, in your denial. And the more you fight it, the more it controls you. Because what you don't own will own you. You became useful, but lost yourself. You used to feel things. You used to say what you meant. You used to take up space. But somewhere along the way, you got tired of being punished for being real. So you made a deal. If I can't be loved for who I am, maybe I'll be needed for who I pretend to be. And it worked. For a while. You became what they wanted, what they applauded, what they depended on. You learned how to read a room, how to shrink, how to soften your edges until even you forgot you had any. You became the good one, the patient one, the one who understands, the one who listens, and slowly, quietly, you disappeared. But people loved you more than ever, because they didn't love you. They loved the function you became. You were no longer a person. You were an emotional tool. And here's the worst part. You trained them to treat you that way. Every time you said, it's okay when it wasn't. Every time you forgave too quickly. Every time you laughed to keep things light. Every time you fixed what they broke. You were hoping they'd finally see you. But all they saw was how well you disappear. Carl Jung spoke of this. He called it the persona, a mask we wear to survive. But when you identify too much with it, you lose access to the self. And that's exactly what happened. You became the mask and forgot the face underneath. Now you wonder why you're tired all the time, why you feel unseen, why nothing satisfies, why your relationships feel one-sided, why your silence feels more like suffocation than peace. It's because you're not here, not really. You're performing, living in emotional autopilot, a body that responds, reacts, gives, but never chooses. Because to choose, you'd have to know what you want. And you haven't asked yourself that in years. You've been too busy being useful. But usefulness is a trap, because what's useful can be replaced. And the day you stop performing, they will leave. Not because they're cruel, but because you taught them that you are only worth what you provide. You weren't born like this. You became this, slowly, ritually, one compromise at a time. And now you're empty. Not because you have nothing to give, but because you gave yourself away in exchange for approval that never satisfied. So what now? You could keep playing the part, smiling, soothing, nodding. But deep down, you already know. If you don't stop, there won't be anything left of you to come back to. Because the longer you stay useful, the more your truth dies in silence. And no one mourns it. Because no one ever met it. You abandoned yourself first. You keep saying you were abandoned, ignored, unseen, unchosen. But let's get real. You were the first to walk away. You walked away from your voice every time it trembled with truth. And you silenced it to keep someone else comfortable. You walked away from your anger every time it tried to protect you, and you called it too much. You walked away from your needs every time they were inconvenient, and you learned to call that maturity. You walked away from your boundaries every time someone stepped over them, and you smiled, as if that didn't destroy you. You abandoned yourself to be loved. But that love, it never filled you. Because love that demands self-erasure is not love, it's obedience. And now you cry, you ache, you scream into your pillow at 3 a.m. wondering why nobody chooses you, why they don't fight for you, why they leave when you're finally honest. But here's the truth. They're just following the pattern you started. You made yourself optional, replaceable, convenient. You gave too much, too fast, too often. Not because you're generous, but because you're terrified of being left. And that fear, it wrote your story. It chose your relationships. It picked your tone of voice. It dictated your posture. It curated every version of you that could be loved at the cost of being real. And now you feel empty. Not because they left, but because you were never there. Only the mask was. So the next time you say, "They didn't choose me," ask yourself, "Did I ever choose me? Even once?" If the answer is no, then let this be the day you stop abandoning the only person who can actually come back for you. The persona is dying, and you can't save it. You feel it, that quiet collapse inside you. You've smiled too long, agreed too much, softened yourself to the point of disappearance. And now the mask, the perfect, polite, functional self you built, is cracking. Not dramatically, internally. It's tired. It can't keep up. It doesn't believe its own lines anymore. Every time you say, "I'm fine," your body flinches. Every time you give one more piece of yourself, your soul recoils. You're not strong. You're not healed. You're not okay. You're fractured, hollow, suffocating in the character you created to survive a world that never met the real you. Carl Jung warned about this. He said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And you've done it. You avoided it through performance, through goodness, through control, through being needed instead of known. But now the persona is dying. And you feel it in strange ways. The fatigue, the numbness, the fake laugh that sounds foreign, the kindness that feels like a transaction, the endless craving to be seen by people who only see the version you rehearsed. The show is falling apart. And the worst part? You still try to fix it. You still try to patch the cracks, to smile better, to give more, to meditate, to journal, to heal. But healing that protects the mask is not healing. It's self-abandonment in spiritual clothing. Let that land. Because here's the brutal truth. The part of you that's collapsing isn't your soul. It's the lie. It's the idea that if you just perform perfectly, they'll love you. That if you're small enough, they'll hold you. That if you're good enough, you'll be safe. But you were never safe, and you were never seen. You were applauded. You were consumed. But you were never met, because you never showed up. The persona is dying, and thank God, because it's the only thing standing between you and everything real. Let it burn. Don't save it. Don't mourn it. Don't negotiate with it. Just let it die. Only then can you finally begin to remember who was underneath it all. The shadow is not here to destroy you. It's you trying to come back. You've spent years running from it, calling it darkness, calling it weakness, calling it not me. But it followed you into your relationships, into your anxiety, into your silence, into the fake light you tried to hide in. And now, with no mask left to wear, you finally see it, not as a monster, but as a mirror. The shadow isn't the enemy. It's the version of you that stayed honest while you became polite. It's the rage you swallowed, the desire you shamed, the instincts you silenced, the truths you buried so deeply you started calling them problems in others. But they were always yours, and they waited. They waited while you meditated your pain away, while you turned suffering into performance, while you played the role of the awakened, the enlightened, the peaceful, But you weren't peaceful. You were repressed. You weren't kind. You were terrified of being seen as cruel. You weren't healed. You were dissociated. And the shadow, it watched it all. Not to punish you, but to stay alive. Because it's the only part of you that refused to lie. That never gave in. That still burns when you betray yourself. That still screams when you pretend you're fine. That still pulses every time you almost say what you really feel. The shadow isn't your shame. It's your truth in exile. And now that everything else has collapsed, it's the only thing left that's still real. Carl Jung didn't say to destroy the shadow. He said to integrate it. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That's the work. Not transcending, not purifying, not rising. Remembering, owning, reclaiming. You don't need to destroy the dark. You need to stop pretending it's not you. Because when you say, "I'm not like that," you feed it. When you judge it, you give it power. When you deny it, it drags you by the throat in silence. But when you finally look at it, without flinching, without excuse, without spiritual bypass, you realize, this isn't the end of you. This is the only part that never betrayed you. The shadow doesn't want control. It wants a seat at the table. It wants to speak, to scream, to feel, to say, "I was always here. You just forgot who I was." And maybe now, you're finally ready to listen. Do you actually want to wake up? Or just be loved for the dream? Now that you've seen it, the mask, the projection, the shadow, the betrayal, what will you do? Will you romanticize your pain again? Will you turn this awakening into another performance? Will you package your suffering in words that make others feel safe while you keep dying quietly behind the eyes? Because here's the question. Do you want to wake up, or do you just want to be loved while you sleep? There's a difference. Waking up is violent, lonely. It tears comfort from your hands. It burns the story you've told about yourself for years. It forces you to admit, I wasn't who I said I was. I wasn't as pure, as kind, as innocent. I was manipulative. I was afraid. I was a liar in soft tones. And once you see that, you don't get to go back. There's no spiritual anesthesia strong enough to unsee your own reflection. So what now? Will you rebuild the character with better affirmations? More polished humility? More convincing apologies? Or will you sit in the wreckage until something true rises? Not beautiful, not perfect, but real. Because if you're not ready for that, then let's be honest. You don't want transformation. You want to be admired while staying the same. You want to be clapped for while you rot in the role you mastered. And maybe that's fine for now. But one day, in a silence too heavy to ignore, you'll hear it again. The scream beneath the smile. The fire beneath the fake peace. The shadow knocking, asking, "Are you done pretending yet?" And when that day comes, you'll know. The real you isn't waiting to be created. He's waiting to be remembered. Beneath the mask. Behind the silence. Beneath the dream.